As of right now, my most viewed video is my iPad mini setup, which leads me to assume there are many people interested in this topic. Today's going to be a 1 year later update. Here's my updated iPad mini setup. But first, if you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. Here we talk about minimalism, frugal living, tech, and things of that nature. So if that sounds good to you and you end up liking the video, be sure to like and please drop kick the subscribe button. Let's get started. And a portion of this video is sponsored by Bellroy. I'm going to start by talking about the device physically and then dive into its content and why I have and use what I use. I don't care to talk too much about the specs, but for those who are interested, this is a 256 gigabyte and the color is Starlight. Starting with the outside of the iPad mini is the case. And this is the Tokyo Folio case from Bellroy. I've been using this case on my iPad for about a month daily now, where it's kept in my backpack and brought with me to work. Just like everything else Bellroy offers, it's super high quality and highly functional. It zips like a work binder and I keep my iPad in this pocket here. My notebook for when I want to physically write things down, like analog journaling, is also kept in here, as well as a pen holder where I currently keep a pencil. You know how much I love pencils. There are a couple of pockets on the left inside as well as an exterior zipper pocket where I've kept my wallet and sunglasses for some time, making this entire case a sort of a bag in itself. Keeping my iPad in here makes me feel a little bit better about how I quite literally throw my backpack around sometimes. I've always said I don't mind paying a little bit more if it means I can get years and years of use out of something. And that is quite literally etched into Bellroy's products, and which is part of the reason I really think they're a great brand. I'll have a link in the description box for 10% off your entire order off Bellroy's website if you're interested in checking this or anything else out. So thanks again to my favorite Australian company, Bellroy. Moving on to the Smart Folio and Apple Pencil. Just like last year, I'm still utilizing the Smart Folio as a stand for when I'm at my desk or anywhere I just need this open and on display, as well as a method of slightly elevating it to make it easier to type and just overall more comfortable. The Apple Pencil 2 is still here as well, and this is what I use for sketching. Sometimes I take notes with this, as well as getting creative on Procreate, which I'll talk about in just a second. I definitely wouldn't call this a necessity for everyone, but if you're creative in any sort, there's almost absolutely some sort of use case for this. Now finally going onto the iPad itself, I'll start with the lock screen. I'm currently using this plant wallpaper I designed on Procreate, and I like this one because it looks nice either way the iPad is oriented. Also, as of uploading this video, all of my wallpapers are still completely free to download, just sort of as a thank you for everyone. So if you're interested in that, a link in the description box will be for that as well. For the widgets, I just currently have the date and the time and a small calendar in the bottom left corner. I like having this little calendar here, just so at a glance I can see where I am in the week. Sometimes I just like a visual. The time I adjusted to be a little bit more bold for the sole purpose of making it easier to see on whatever wallpaper I have at the time. Frankly, there isn't a whole lot of customization yet with the lock screen, but that's fine because I really don't like a whole lot of information on the lock screen, at least anyways. Moving to the home screen, I've tried to optimize it in a way where I could easily access my most used apps and just made widgets where it makes sense. Right now I have a large widget for the weather app, mainly just so I can take a glance at it and see how that may affect any plans I might have outside. I also have a large widget for the Notes app because of how frequently I'm going in there, a widget for Spotify, and once again, a widget for the calendar. The word widget sucks. At the bottom toolbar, I just have Safari, email, and a tab to open up all the rest of my apps. I feel like having this bottom bar as small as possible is one of the best ways to just make the home screen overall look more clean and minimal. Honestly, even all of these widgets on the home screen make it feel a little bit too cluttered for me, but as of right now, they all do serve a purpose. As far as apps go, a lot of them are still the same as last year, but I've also added a few new ones to suit my current needs. And for now, I've broken them up into a few different categories: finance, entertainment, creativity/work, and everything else that's included on the iPad upon turning it on and the iPad does not let you delete it for whatever reason. For my finances, I have the Chase app, Vanguard app, and Fidelity. Honestly, I would even consider the calculator app part of finance because it's the only time I actually even use the app is when I'm dealing with money. Right now, I use the Chase app as sort of a home base for my finances until I find a good enough budgeting app. The Vanguard app is where I have my retirement account, and it's what I use when I want to transfer money to there, as well as keep track of any activity. The Fidelity app is pretty much the same thing as the Vanguard app, although I like the Vanguard interface much better. The Fidelity app is where I have my brokerage account, so I'm actually using that one much more, whereas the Vanguard app I check much less frequently. I do want to do a deeper dive of how I use specific finance apps for saving, investing, and tracking expenses, but I'll save that for a later video. And lastly, here's the calculator. For reasons I can't explain, there's no built-in calculator on the iPad OS like there is on the iPhone and Mac. Thankfully, there are a ton of free calculator apps to download, so I just picked one of those. Entertainment. I wouldn't be able to have a balanced iPad without having some apps that are solely dedicated to entertainment. So as of right now, those apps are Procreate, YouTube, Spotify, Shortform, Discord, and Reddit. Procreate's what I use to create wallpapers, thumbnails, and some of the little animations that are in my videos. The YouTube app is of course for watching or listening to videos, mostly when I have my iPad on my desk at work. I've watched YouTube on phones, laptops, TVs, and the iPad, and for some reason it really feels like YouTube is best optimized on an iPad. It's just the right size. Spotify is really nice to have in the background when I'm reading or messing around on Procreate. It also makes for a nice widget. And Shortform is basically an app that condenses books into really short and digestible lengths. It has some cool features like customizing the interface, a pretty solid selection of titles. I generally hate reading nonfiction unless it's history, so Shortform gives me all the points I really would need from a book without having to sit down and read the whole thing. I'm sure most people watching this know what Discord is, but basically, in my opinion, it's the best free way of having things like a group call and screen sharing. I really only have this for when I'm in a chat with my friends, but since I do have it on my phone, it doesn't get used much here anymore, so I don't know how much longer it'll actually be staying. Reddit is one of my personal favorite ways of getting things like information or advice on topics I find interesting, and it's also a really good place to look at reviews for things. Just be cautious. I do regularly have games on my iPad. I recently uninstalled COD Mobile because I realized that I hate it, but this iPad really holds up for gaming for what it is. Shout out to Stardew Valley. Creativity and work. I've combined these two into the same category because most of these apps help with both work and creativity. And those apps are the Notes app, YouTube Studio, Pinterest, Notion, and ChatGPT. The Notes app is easily my favorite app for to-do lists and quickly writing things down I need to remember. I actually use talk to text exclusively with the Notes app because it is much faster and simpler. I've been trying to physically journal as of late, but that's less for work and more for my own personal way of unwinding, while Notes is strictly for things that I need to be more accurate or for things that need to be completed. YouTube Studio gets checked occasionally, but it's mostly here for uploading my thumbnails for my videos because it never works on desktop for some reason. Pinterest, yes, Pinterest, used to be a sales trap for me before minimalism, but now it's a really good way to find creative inspiration. I find a lot of cool cinematic shots and even tips for things like personal finance on here. Notion's what I use for tracking, planning, and organizing some short-term goals or work that I have planned. I made a whole video on my Notion setup if you're interested in that. And finally, ChatGPT. For those watching who aren't familiar, ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence chatbot that is a lot less scary than it sounds. I'm not quite sure how most people use it, but what I found it really helpful with is organizing information that I've dumped into it. And even more so, it's completely or almost completely replaced me Google searching for something. When I need to find the answer for something, Google will give me 100 different results with 100 different answers. And for the most part, ChatGPT is very direct, and so far it hasn't steered me wrong. Anyways, that basically sums up my entire iPad mini setup as of right now. Hopefully Apple hasn't made this device completely obsolete by next year, and I could do another year update at that time. Anyways, as always, I appreciate the time you spent here, and I appreciate you watching. If you did like this video and you like this type of content, be sure to like and consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you next time.